Very rarely do they kill 2 or 3 times more. They go to prison. And sometimes we have to believe in our prison system that there can be a little bit of rehabilitation, no matter what the circumstances. Everybody has a soul. What would happen 15, 20 years from now if the person who wants to execute stays in the system for 20 years, for whatever reasons, is able to explain or able to help the corrections officer, and with his testimony to a corrections officer, prevent a serious harm to a corrections officer? In other words, he becomes a rat, comes out of the system, and saves an officer's life in prison. My thoughts when I go back to the streets, I talk about, I think about the addicts, mental health individuals, the inability for a lot of these people to think normally and rationally, and oftentimes it's kind of passion done at the last moment. I have to remind you that desperate people do desperate things. That's quite how it happens. We have a mental health system, a substance abuse system that isn't working. If we took care of those systems, it would save our policemen a lot of time and effort and do a great deal to go towards the public safety. Lastly, I didn't know about this easy. It's taking me time to think about this. But I am the parent of a blended family. In our blended family, my wife is an assistant school principal in Manchester. I have 3 young adults who are teachers. I have 2 adults that are nurses. And I have 1 adult who's a policeman. I believe that all of those individuals are strong, dedicated, service-oriented professionals, and they are at personal risk by the way society is today. However, their life is not considered when it comes to the death penalty. It's just good for 1 person, and that's my son. You can imagine conversations around the Thanksgiving table when everybody is there discussing instances like this, and this law is only for 1 policeman. It doesn't protect anybody else. So, in closing, I just like to say, just because a person is against the death penalty doesn't mean that person is anti-police or anti-public safety. Thank you for your time. I thank you all for your service, and I try to be your choice.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you. The chair will call Richard Van Whitler. The chair will call Bob Hurley. Sir, at this point, I'll remind everyone, please don't read any written testimony. Please try to offer something that we haven't heard before and what we're interested in your testimony. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Bob Crowley. On October 1st of 1997, my 10-year-old son Jeffrey was kidnapped and murdered. He was taken from his grandmother's house in East Cambridge, Massachusetts. His wife and family dog. He was taken by two young men, 21, 20 years old. I knew one of the men, Sal Scaria, and the other guy was a fellow by the name of Charles James, whom I never seen. Charles James was a member of a group called NAMBLA, the North American Neighborhood Association, which is a group that had kids safe between men and children, which I never heard of. I never heard of anything so crazy in my life. What they did with Jeffrey 2 weeks prior to October 1st, they stole his bicycle and they confronted him with the promise of a new bike. Pedophile circle, that's known as grooming child. It's one of the different tactics that they use to lure children, molest children. What they did with Jeffrey, they took him that day, told me they were going to take me to get him a new bike. He ran in the house and said, "Man, I have to go to my friend and get something. I'll be back." We're getting in the car with him. They told him they would get him a new bike if he had sex with him. He refused. Given that time after Jeff was murdered, I don't know how I or anybody else could feel any other way than to be in favor of it. And I have had a lot of state Massachusetts during the Institute of Capital Punishment. Time moved along. The following year, the trial started. You get a close and personal view of the criminal justice system. Charles James was a really evil person, as bad as they come. Still carrying around as a kid. He was always alive, not too bright. He was just a tag along with Charles James. Well, Celso Carey had a state appointed attorney. Celso Carey had the first trial in Middlesex County, right in the neighborhood where Jeff was killed. He was convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. Charles James had a very good defense lawyer. He had a change of venue. He had his second trial, and the real evil one out of the two of them, Charles James was convicted of second-degree murder with the possibility of parole for 15 years. And that made me think, when you get a look at the criminal justice system, maybe it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's a good system, but it's not perfect, and it's not fair. I mean, it's just a fact. Who can afford a good defense lawyer? Who can't? That's just the way it June 28, 1993, I stepped out of the Maryland prison system a free man for the first time. Never heard a soul. It took another 10 years to find out an answer that everybody had been looking for. And that was who killed Don Kennedy. There was a police report that came in 9 days before I was arrested. A man by the name of Kimberly J. Ruffin, who was let go here 2 weeks before Dawn's murder for 2 attempted rapes and 2 other murders. The police in that case never went to check. And as DNA proved, it was Kimberly J. Ruffin, who was not 6'5", who was 5'6", and about 60 pounds. I knew then, as I know now, as I stand before you, because I did testify in 2000 in this same body to repeal the death penalty, as I do today. If it happened to an honorably discharged Marine with no criminal record or criminal history, it can happen to any one of us, whether it's Maryland, Connecticut, or anybody else in the nation, even New Hampshire. I ask this body to pass the 1170 and House bill in support of repeal. In the end, all of you can say this, and this is the truth, that if you do not use it, you will never execute an innocent person. It's the best way to go in our society. And I yield to the committee for questions. If not, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate one thing. I met her about 6 months ago. I signed the handcuffs on before I met her. But your story was so enlightening to me, and I think your story that you are sort of figure. Thank you very much for all that.
My pleasure.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
The chair will call Stephen Merkin.
My name is Steve Murray, I'm staff attorney for the New Hampshire Public Defender. I want to emphasize that I'm standing here today as an individual, not in any way representing the public defender. I've been a criminal defense lawyer for 35 years, and I find myself utterly unable to imagine how to stand up and follow this puzzle. But what I want to talk about is how the method actually works in the capital jurisdiction. Before I came back to New Hampshire a little over a year ago, I practiced law the last 24 years in Kentucky. And been involved one way or another in a number of death penalty cases. I was a defense counsel in 7 death penalty cases that went to trial to jury verdicts. Some of what goes on, the amount of time it takes to process one of these cases is already been addressed. Let me tell the committee this. I arrived in Kentucky in 1989. At that time, there were 34 people on Kentucky's death row. Since then, 2 of them have been executed. Some died of natural causes. Quite a number have had their convictions or sentences reversed by appellate courts and ended up leading to life sentences. One was exonerated, and 15 of them are still there. And their cases are dragging on in the courts still. Why is that? Capital litigation is a 9-step process. The Addison case is not finished yet with step 2. You have a trial, you have direct appeal to the state Supreme Court, you have petition for certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court. You come back to the state court for a post-conviction, generally allegations that trial counsel failed to preserve certain issues that nonetheless ought to be raised and examined. If you're unsuccessful there, you go back to the state Supreme Court, followed by certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court. Then, if only then, you start federal court. You have to go through all 6 previous steps in order to have exhausted your remedies before the federal court will even consider your case. The Gaston case, it's been referenced today, we're now 7.5 years from the date of the crime. Mr. Gaston's conviction has been upheld in step 2, his sentence is still under consideration by the Hampshire Supreme Court step 2. Why did those cases take so much longer? One reason is because they are so much more involved. By comparison, your typical first-degree murder case
case of the death penalty statute, the conversation when something like this, one person, I'll swap a death by arson, if you will go along with me on a murder of prisoner, or well, I won't do that, but I will, I'll vote in favor
Chair, members of the committee. First of all, I just want to say that some of you may know me in my role in past roles at Cornerstone, both as the acting executive director as well as chairman of the board. But I'm here today as an individual and a mom of 4 boys, and I'm proud that my husband and I are raising our sons to respect life from the moment of conception to natural death. When I first headed to Indiana University, I
thought about this many times over the years, guys. It's very simple. There was a gentleman that traveled through the state of New Hampshire. On he traveled. He was a serial murderer, and his name was Samson. And he killed a homeless man in Massachusetts, a young 19-year-old kid with a college kid from a great family. He stole the kid's car and ended up in America, New Hampshire, where he killed a gentleman named Whitney, who was right here at the time. Actually, not too far from this way. He had taken up residence in that vacation home like he owned it. And basically, I stood there with the victim and after the victim was killed. They moved on and moved on. He kidnapped a person who was lucky enough to jump out of the car and get away. And that's how it ended. I got a call from Hampshire, who was also a homicide detective. By this time, he didn't know who Samson was. He had some pictures from him, some convenience store stops he made. He knew he was driving on a gentleman's car. And we responded, not only the detectives, myself, the detectives from Hampshire, but Massachusetts, and Vermont. And I happened to be Mr. Sampson, who was, believe me when I tell you, the manifestation of everything we all shared. And the one thing that always stuck in my mind is that he talked to me in a way that slowly sounds. Not only was he charismatic, very full, and he was talking about it, he was not mentally ill. He talked about death penalty, and he picked and he chose who he was going to talk to first. And he didn't talk to me because he knew he would die here. So he talked to Massachusetts and me and we all charged him. But it was very difficult. And I drove home at the end of that day, and I felt that New Hampshire was all the place I knew that it was to live, and I felt that statute very likely saved somebody's life here in the state. And it was, in fact, a shield that it was designed for. So thank you, Anderson, for the testimony.
Thank you very much for your testimony this afternoon. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you. The chair will call Larry Goldman.
I stand up at the city. Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Larry Goldman, and I live in Durham and practice at Nixon Goldman Law Firm in Manchester, and I also was on the Death Penalty Commission. In my 40-year career, I've represented almost 100 men and women charged with murder and handled more than a dozen capital cases. I'd like to talk with the committee about innocence from a different perspective. And then also, Madam Chairman, I'd be happy to address the question you posed to a few former witnesses about the statute. For 15 years before I came to New Hampshire in 1994, I was a faculty member at Coastal Law School. And Mary Shea and I ran a clinical program there and were in practice. About 30 years ago, we received a phone call about a man who, out on Long Island, was doing 30 years for rape, claimed he was innocent, and asked us to have his DNA tested and go back to court. And we did that, and he was exonerated, and that was the first exoneration in U.S. history based upon DNA. We did that case, Mary and I, with another lawyer in the community, and unbeknownst to Peter and myself, Mary was going on the Phil Connie show, and some folks here had hair gray up that they remember the predecessors to Springer and all those things. Mary would have, talking to us, made a promise to every inmate in the country that if they were innocent and the DNA proved their innocence, we would represent them. That was the beginning of the innocent project. We started receiving mail from around the country, literally thousands of letters. And the innocent project grew. It's now almost every state here. It resulted in
I guess